Breaking news. Your amazingly vibe-coded app doesn't actually mean that much if you can't actually get people to sign up for it. Because here's the problem. A lot of product-focused entrepreneurs tend to see marketing as a lesser-than-me type of function. They think that with a great enough product, customers will be drawn to them like moths to a flame. And while it's true that a remarkable product can have that effect over time, it's likely not going to be the case for a vibe-coded app out of the gate. So today I thought it'd be really cool to show you guys how to combine my direct response prompt system with a simple vibe coding stack in order to build out really beautiful, high converting landing pages for your products. For those of you that already know me, welcome back. This video is going to be killer for you if you're already coding out apps, but you're a little hesitant when thinking about, but how am I going to market this thing? And if you don't know me, well, there's a pretty simple reason you should heed my advice on this one. First, just to call a spade, I've made millions of dollars with direct response advertising. I know what you need to say to a person in order to get them to whip out their credit card. Second, I actually started my career in the startup SaaS world. So I know the ecosystem, I know the types of people, and I know what you need to do in order to really separate yourself from the pack. And third, I have my own small portfolio of SaaS companies that I actually do this stuff for. So there's that too. So first things first, I'm going to walk you through the two different prompts that we will be using. And it's going to be a little bit of a speed run through some important marketing psychology theory. Then we're going to be hopping into a UI library, and I'm going to be showing you how we take the documentation from that library and pass it into our next series of prompts. Then from there, we're going to vibe code our asses off to build a really nice looking landing page pretty fast. So this video is going to be perfect for you if you already have a SaaS product or an idea for one and you want to maximize its chances of success out of the gate. You're a UI designer and you're curious about what BS you think I'm about to spew out of my mouth. Or three, you know deep in your heart that vibe coding and like building software and building products is something you really want to do and you just love watching videos and learning about this type of stuff. But here's why this topic is really important for you to tune into, whether it's through me or whether it's through somebody else. In the coming years, when we reach a point that literally anybody can code, you have to have competitive advantages if you want to succeed. And knowing how to influence somebody's subconscious decision-making process is a huge competitive advantage. Point blank, end of story. If product success was simply about the product, the world would be a much different place. Do you think Nike actually makes the best shoes or the best shirts? Do you think Red Bull actually makes the best energy drink that will give you the most energy? Absolutely not. They appeal to people's personal identities. People buy those products because they see themselves and the ideal version of themselves in those products. The identity of the person is first. The product is secondary. And in just a second, I'm going to explain to you why that's the case and how we can start thinking about that. So I have a question for you. Have you ever seen the series Mad Men? It follows a guy named Don Draper, who was an ad man in the mid-1900s. Well, the thing that's cool is those guys were, real. And one such person from that period is known as the godfather of modern day advertising, Eugene Schwartz. Now, Eugene Schwartz is famous for a lot of things in the realm of advertising and direct response advertising, but one of the things that he is most famous for is his concept of buyer awareness and sophistication levels. So, what do those concepts tell us? With buyer awareness, it means that every single potential buyer for your product exists on a spectrum. And the spectrum is based on their awareness about the problem that they have and solutions and companies that solve that problem. So let's take a very simple example of a gym membership. Does the person you are messaging even know that being out of shape and overweight and not eating healthy is in any way linked to any of the problems that they have in their life? Like, do they even associate any real world problem to the fact that they are clinically obese and only eat fast food? So in a sense, you can say there's a very large chunk of people that aren't even aware of the problem in the first place. And then as we move down the spectrum, we move from people that are completely unaware to people that know they have the problem, to people that are actively looking for solutions to the problem, to people that have picked out specific companies within each of those categories of solutions, and so on. And it's really important to know this because you need to talk to those people differently. Giving a 1-month free discount to your fitness app for someone that is clinically obese and doesn't even think they need to get in shape, probably going to miss the mark. Similarly, if you're talking to somebody that has a really clear problem, well, then you need to frame that problem and position yourself as a solution to that problem. So now that we have that context, let's go look at our first prompt and talk about what we're doing. So again, the first real step of our process is our avatar research process. And we have a prompt in here that, again, will be in the school group. You can go download it. But you'd be surprised at how many hopeful entrepreneurs can't even answer the question, who is your dream customer? And so the interesting thing is that most people are typically in the unaware stage, meaning they don't even know that they have a problem to be solved. So if we were to think of these 5 stages here, they're kind of like a funnel, right? Where there's the most at the top and then we get more and more narrow as we go down. And so for purposes of building out our landing pages, it's usually the problem aware and solution aware areas that we want to play in because it's where there's the most people that are already kind of primed and ready to buy. So for context, what we're going to be building here is a landing page for an AI-powered recipe creator. The way that this thing works is that you take a picture of food in a restaurant, you give tasting notes about the food, you give the menu description that the restaurant had, and it turns it into a Michelin star recipe for you. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, I want to go out and understand who is the dream customer for that product. And so we come in here and we start dialing in this prompt. We say, I want 5 customer avatars, 1 for each level of awareness, based off of Eugene Schwartz's stages of market awareness, as taught in his book, Breakthrough Advertising. Okay. Then we give a high level of what the audience is. They're foodies, but they struggle with consistently creating amazing meals at home. They love eating great food out at restaurants, but that skill does not necessarily translate to the kitchen. We have a $10 per month app that allows them to take pictures from meals at restaurants and transform them into Michelin star recipes using AI. And now we go through and we actually have it return to us our research in a specific format. And I'm going to very quickly go through and show you the types of things that we're going to be asking it to give us. So we start with basic demographics, right? How much money do they make? What's their gender? Who are they? What brands do they wear? And then we start getting into more like what I would consider psychographics, meaning like what are the pains and frustrations and life desires of this person? So what are the major values that they hold? What are their major life victories and failures? What keeps them awake at night, eyes open, staring at the ceiling? What are they secretly afraid of? Frustrations they feel, dominant negative emotions, dominant positive emotions, right? Purchasing habit triggers. So we go through and we ask it basically, I want you to go out for that avatar and return me all of this information. And out pops our avatar. So we can see their name, their job, or their gender, their job, how much money they make, brands they wear, movies they like, books they've read. And by the way, this is actually really dialed in. I can tell you because I am my own dream customer for this app, and a lot of this stuff is on the money. Like I follow this guy, for example, on YouTube. And so why are they? What are their main personality traits? They're curious. They're typically ambitious. They are analytical and kind of sociable, but forward thinking, right? And then we just keep going through. What are their major values? What are their major victories in life? What are their major failures, right? Failed startup attempt, inconsistent, healthy eating. They're always trying to eat healthy again, but then they don't. So we go through and we get this like really deep sense of who this person is, what type of language is unique to them, right? Think in the context of a landing page. These are the types of verbiage this person uses in their day-to-day life. They use words like game changer, next level, right? Things like that. If you've ever been out to a restaurant, I wish I could replicate that, right? I use a lot of these. And so we go through and fill out this entire thing. And now that is our first stage of this process. It's going out and it's trying to understand these high-level pieces about this person. And now this stage is critical, but do you know why it's critical? It's because good marketing, and particularly good copywriting, does a few things. Number one, it tells a story. Number two, it meets the prospect where they are in their journey with this problem. And number three, it speaks to the prospect in their own language, and it highlights their pains, their problems, their frustrations, their desires, their dreams. And if you don't have any of that, if you don't really understand any of that, you're not going to be able to speak to that person in a way that really resonates with them. You'll notice this a lot. If you go out and you look at other SaaS landing pages, you'll begin to notice that a lot of them only focus on features. And especially if you start looking at an app that's doing incredibly well and maybe has flown versus one that it's kind of cool actually when you get in there, but it's like it doesn't seem to be really catching with anybody. It's because their landing pages and their marketing are often focused on the features instead of what the features mean to the person. People don't buy features. People buy a better version of their life. And that is a critical distinction to make because your landing page needs to be able to pull out that emotion in the context of this person's day-to-day life. We call that dimensionalizing. So let's talk about how we can have AI help us dimensionalize our ideal dream customer's profile. So we have this big list of really just emotions and manifestations of those emotions. And so again, the last thing you want to do is just list out features and hope that they're so amazing that everyone will just want to buy your app. And so one way we bridge that gap is by using benefit-driven copy, or even better than that, like the next level of that is dimensionalized benefits. And so really quick, before I show you how we're going to do it, let's look at this in the context of some companies you probably already know. Let's look at Spotify, for example. The feature might be AI-powered playlist algorithms that build you custom playlists based on your listening history, right? That is a feature. The benefit of that might be so that you can hear music that is tailored to you, right? Clear feature, AI algorithm for making playlists, clear benefit so that you can X, Y, Z. Well, here's how you could think about dimensionalizing that benefit. Imagine stepping into your car after a stressful day of work. You fumble with your phone to try to put your music on. You pick your daily playlist from Spotify, and instead of having to cycle through a bunch of songs that don't match what you want to listen to right now, it automatically knows the exact song that you want to play to turn your mood around. Your drive home turns into your own personal concert as the stress of the day washes away. That is a dimensionalized benefit, right? And you can see how it's now in the context of a story. Let me give you one more example. A lot of you use Notion as a note taker. So a feature from Notion might be cross-device syncing. The benefit might be so that your notes are wherever you are. Well, what might a dimensionalized benefit be? Right? You're sitting in a cafe and your Uber pulls up and you were just in the meeting of typing out some note on your laptop. You close your laptop, hit the Uber on your way to the airport, and you're able to pick up exactly where you left off without missing a beat. So again, dimensionalized benefit in the context of the person's life. Really bad landing pages only focus on features. Mid-level landing pages focus on benefits. God-tier landing pages focus on dimensionalization of those benefits. But again, how can we actually do it? How can we take this avatar research that we have and now translate it into a format that's easy to pull dimension out of? Well, one hack that we have here is courtesy of a copywriting great of our own days, John Benson. And so he has this exercise that he teaches where you create a diary entry from the perspective of your ideal avatar. And so if you think about it for a second, where would somebody be most emotionally open? Well, it's in their diary. And so what we want to do is we want to prompt the system to literally write a fictitious diary entry from our avatar's perspective. And so that is what this prompt is. We're telling it to do that. We're saying, hey, I'm going to give you below the avatar, and I'm going to give you the features of my app. And I want you to take those to and fuse those worlds together. So I want you to write this diary entry series from the perspective of a person that is now experiencing this app for the first time. And so we give it all of our, I'm going to scroll through this real quick because there's a lot. We're giving it all of the features of our app, and we're saying, hey, go write me these diary entries. And so this is what it goes through, and it does. Now, one thing I will say, if I was to do this again right now, I probably would actually use Claude for something like this because it tends to be better with creative writing in my experience. But we have it in ChatGPT, so it is what it is. And so it goes through and it does that. And the thing that's cool about this exercise is that it starts bringing in this emotional concreteness to what somebody that's actually going to be experiencing this app for the first time would actually feel and how they would talk about those things. And so it goes through, and the thing that I like about this is it makes one for the before state, like right before they have used your app for the first time. And then they go through and they do it for now they're actively a user of the app, kind of experiencing it for the first time, and then what their life is like after it. And again, it's that identity shift and social recognition. So that's a big thing, is that people are often driven by deep desires that they're not willing to admit, typically even to themselves, let alone other people. Things like status, things like being recognized by other people. And so when we write these diary entries, part of our prompt is asking the system to frame some of these diary entries based on what the person would think other people now think of them. So let's go back out to a 1,000-foot view here for a second. We've done some really deep research on who our dream customer actually is. And then we spent a lot of time, or in this case, in the age of AI, a lot of computing resources to understand their real pains and their real desires and their real frustrations. And then we compressed all of that into a diary entry from the perspective of that person. And that's where we get this output that has this like really visceral kind of like emotional type of language, where we're getting glimpses into like what a day in the life of this person experiencing this app might actually be. And so now that we've gotten to this stage, we are almost ready to start building this into a landing page. And by the way, all of these prompts are in the free school group, which you can get below this video if you want them. So really quick, professional design imparts authority, and people buy from authority. They've actually done some pretty wild studies on this. In Finland, a man with a ladder, a reflective vest, and a name badge was able to get access to secure government buildings just because people thought he looked like he should be there, right? He looked like an authority. And so people treated him as such. And our landing page has that same effect on people. It doesn't matter if you have the best app in the world. If people land on your landing page and it looks like it was made by a third grader, they're going to think that the app experience is probably similar. It is part of our DNA. It is an inescapable force of gravity that you need to contend with. And so a great solution to that is using a very professional, well-done UI component library. And that is what we are going to do in this example. So one company that I think is just really cool with this stuff is a company called Magic UI. They have a lot of really awesome plug-and-play components and designs, right? So just imagine maybe you have an app that, I don't know, does a bunch of cool different integrations with different tools and you want to show that off on your homepage. Well, you could make a really cool looking component like this that shows off this integration and it just works out of the box. So really awesome. You do not have to use them. There are other options, but I really like their stuff. I have lifetime access to their repository. So I just love using their stuff for things like this. But for right now, all we are going to actually do is we're going to come in here and we're just going to grab the URL. So we're going to grab the URL to the documentation, because in the next step, we are going to now start prompting ChatGPT to take this documentation, understand the different components it could have access to, and merge all of these things together now into one output, which is our landing page copy. So now we have our diary entries here, right? And so we just took our diary entries from the last exercise, and we're pasting all of them in. So we're just pasting each one in right here. Then we give our app feature list, so all of the features inside of our app. And then at the very bottom, we say, this is your job. I need you to read the documentation for this landing page UI library. And now I want you to take everything you know about my app features, who it's built for, the pain and benefit they have, and I want you to frame me out a section by section, high converting, CRO driven SaaS landing page. And now we can see the output that we get. So it goes section by section: hero, social proof, the problem section, the solution section. Like we said, problem and solution orientation is really important with this stuff. How the app actually works, what the different features are. We would want to come through here and dial this in. Obviously, we just had a whole thing about how we don't just want features. So I would try to make these benefit driven, and that's a follow-up prompt you could do. So instantly identify dish components from any photo. Little shorthand for making something benefit driven is using language like so that or which means. So instantly identify dish components from any photo, which means no guessing what's actually inside the dish, right? Stuff like that. Testimonials from happy users, a pricing section, FAQs, a call to action, and then our footer. So it gives us this entire thing. I didn't love some of the outputs, and so I said, you need to make this more dimensionalized or benefit driven, right? And then it goes through. So I went a little bit of a back and forth saying, hey, dial this in a little bit, dial that in a little bit. And so now that we have all of that, what we're going to do is we're going to hop into Cursor and we're just going to build this thing. Now, all we did here, guys, was we went in and we just pasted in our prompt, if I could find where it is. Right, so I had one version of this, and then I updated the copy like I showed you guys. I was going back and forth. And so this is all we do. So you take this output from chat, the entire thing, you copy it, you paste it in, and you say, I'm building a SaaS landing page for my startup. Below is a section-by-section breakdown of my copy. Your job is to reference the Magic UI documentation, which we provide a link to, and figure out the best way to build a professional UI for my app that really pops. Then we give all of the copy that we had, right? All the copy, just paste it in. I tell it that, hey, I'm using the startup template, so please take that into account and look at the component library they have. It goes through, it looks at their startup template, it looks at a few other things, it browses the web, goes through, builds a plan, and now it just flies through this thing and creates every single section that we asked it to make. And here's what the output looks like. And here we go. Turn any restaurant dish into your own signature creation. Little before and afters of what it looked like in the restaurant, what their creation looks like. And then as we start going through, from restaurant admirers to home culinary artists, the restaurant experience that disappears when you pay the bill. You've experienced that perfect dish, the one with flavor so incredible you'd return just for another taste. You've tried to recreate it from memory and failed. You've searched countless recipes online, none capturing what made it special. The masterpiece remains locked behind closed doors. Right? Dimensionalized pain. That's dimensionalized pain, realistically. And then we do the exact opposite of it, right? Now we go through and we say, let's take a photo and turn it into a culinary triumph, right? This is where we said we might want to dimensionalize this a little bit, but this is just saying what the steps are, right? So capture the magic, share your experience, get your Michelin star blueprint, create your masterpiece. Pretty cool. And then again, these are different features that we'd want to dimensionalize a little bit more. So I'd make this like benefit driven. Cool pricing table, FAQs already filled in. A lot of really dope design components, right? So it's got all these little food emoji things flying around. Just like a really cool, it also looks very good on mobile, by the way. If I were to refresh this, looks really good on mobile. Just out of the gate, no fussing around. Just works. So this is really awesome. We get a super professional UI for a SaaS landing page with actual direct response copywriting embedded into it. And so this type of solution will separate you from every other SaaS entrepreneur hopeful out there that vibes up a great product but can't actually sell them. It feels like this is my new channel mantra, but I will say it again. In an age where technical skill becomes a commodity, there are two things that you need to focus on. Number one, which I talk about most, understanding what you are doing. And number two, finding your unique points of differentiation that can help separate you from the crowd. There's a lot of ways that can manifest. It can be in your subject matter expertise. It could be in something like design. It can be in a lot of different things. For me, part of it is the marketing side because I have a background in direct response marketing, but it can be anything for you guys, but it has to be something. That being said, understanding direct response marketing and applying it to your vibe-coded business is absolutely a lever that you must learn how to pull. So go out there, download the templates, and get after it for yourself and start actually applying these things. That is it for this video. I will see you in the next one.